Let me open up my tax receipts from last year. What did I spend? $12,000, and they were almost all with Family First Life.
Did you make any
Let me open up the
sales?
file. None to speak of. I mean, I made a handful of sales. I've got them listed as CRM leads, CRM. So they were definitely all out of the CRM that you guys are talking about with Greg and Tyra and everybody.
Oh, you heard the entire
I
Tyra.
don't-
Based on my impression from the Tyra interview, Tyra Hamilton, it seems like they were laughing at you.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess, and what I've gleaned from everything that your interviews with her, Greg, Integrity, the granddaddy of them all, that buys up these IMOs. They've got chops. They're the IMO, aren't they? In the country, 15 billion annual. Crazy what these guys do. I don't know that I would go poke that bear. I'm not saying somebody doesn't have a good beef. I totally get that people like Greg, John, whomever, right? They got a beef with these guys. I don't know that I poke that bear. I'm looking at some silly little $12,000 thing here. It's not a lot of money, but it is a lot of money, right?
Were you new in the business
So-
when you started giving them 12,000?
It was over time, my whole year, by the way, 2021, and I was.
Still working for FFL?
No, I am not, and that's the thing. I've moved on. Like I said in my email to you, I've got bigger fish in the fryer than to go chase this thing down. If there's a class action, you got my email, right?
I did get your. Yeah.
That's what I said in my email. If this thing goes to class action, yeah, count me in, but I'm not going to be one of the named people in the suit. I mean, Greg and whoever, they had a lot more money in it and a lot bigger fight. What do you guys? I mean, what do you guys after?
I do a 6-day per week video conference call, and you hear these stories one by one. And when you hear these type of stories, such as your story, $12,000 of leads and how many sales?
It's minuscule. It's nothing. David, I bought a guy's real estate practice 4 years ago, and I've sold millions. I mean, big numbers don't intimidate me. They don't impress me, but I got hustle. I know how to work.
You're in that famous town of Kenosha.
Yeah, we're on the map now.
How much time and effort did you spend calling these $12,000 of leads?
I was somewhat inconsistent. But, I bought in addition to buying the leads, I also bought that phone burner.
Did they recommend you buy a phone burner?
They do. They absolutely recommend that you buy a phone burner. They tell you don't have to, but they recommend that you do. They tell you that you don't have to buy that app. I mean, if I jog my memory, I could remember what it was, where you can go get office space anywhere in the country, where you could log in, grab the office space while you're on these travel trips. They recommend that you do that. They buy the app, which is, $100 a month.
$12,000 of leads. How many leads was that actually?
It was a mixture over time, Dave. There were the instant internet leads. There were the cheesy mortgage protection leads that are aged. They were final expense leads, 3 months, 6 months, 1 month old. Because I saved these in a PDF in my tax file. Let me just see if it indicates what they were. Because I did not keep the leads themselves. I think what happened is this thing just calls them Mail Pro Leads LLC. That was the merchant.
Thought about requesting a refund for that $12,000 of leads?
I'm not. I wrote them off on my taxes. It offset the loss because there was no profit to be made. I was sucking wind separating from my wife. My kid he had a sick kid with autism. Sean, Mike, and all those guys that are thinking around with this thing was just as important as it can be. It didn't make my A list. You know what I mean?
That took you a lot of time to call that many leads.
It did. Okay, so I'm looking now.
Okay, I'm looking at the email and said, let me know when this goes to class action with or Amos. I spent thousands on leads. I'm very busy, financially recovered, building a business. I have a grandson with autism, elderly mom, disabled.
Yep.
You don't want a mess. You just want class action. No individual lawsuits for you.
Right. Absolutely not. $12,000 is not worth the fight for me. I got my email here from integritymarketing.com. These following leads have been added to your CRM. No.reply at integritymarketing.com.
The few sales you made, were they primarily Americo?
That's safe to say. I think I sold more Americo than anything. I sold Americo, American Amicable. I think I sold like an Aetna one and a Mutual Omaha. It was over the better part of the year. Holy smokes. What the heck is with these leads? I'm buying these leads, and it's one thing to tell me, well, we can't control if Mrs. Jones filled out 15 different things on the internet. And yeah, okay. I'm not a 20-year-old kid. Let's say Mrs. Jones did. Okay, so I just bought Mrs. Jones on an instant internet lead. If I don't sell Mrs. Jones, she's still sitting in the CRM. Who's calling that? That just means somebody's going to pick her up, Mrs. Jones, on a 1-month lead, then somebody else is going to pick her up on a 3-month lead. Let's just say that somebody sells Mrs. Jones when they bought her at a 3-month lead. She finally buys something to shut us up. Who's telling the CRM she bought something? Well, Mrs. Jones is sitting there waiting to be sold at a 6-month lead.
When did you realize that these leads were sold to multiple people.
Very early on, probably within 2 months of starting up, so it would have been early in the year, January, February. To me, those were the 1 month, 3 month, 90-day, whatever, but they weren't the instant internet leads. To me, I understood that the recycling of the lead, which I didn't think was good practice, I didn't think it was unethical, because if they bought the leads, they own the leads, they can do with the leads what they want. I thought it was sloppy operations, that nobody was talking about going in and calling them, updating them, or saying Mrs. Jones doesn't want to hear from us anymore, stop calling her, whatever. What I didn't understand until your guys' interview, Dave, was they were doing that mess with the instant internet leads. That's what I bought. I bought mostly instant internet leads, and if I bought a 1 month lead, I knew I was getting a recycled lead. I didn't know how bad it was. And when I bought the aged mortgage protection, I knew what I was buying. I had no idea there would be 10-year-old damn leads. I talked to somebody, I sold that house 6 years ago.
Instant internet leads, were you told they were exclusive?
It was, yeah.
That was the majority of your $12,000 of lead purchases?
Yeah, oh yeah.
How long did it take you to find out that those were bogus leads as well?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't realize that those were bogus leads until your guys' interviews, Dave. I moved on to Advantage One Brokers, and then they were going through so many gyrations operationally. I'm like, I'm out. I can't hang out here while they sort this operational process out.
So you just believed you had bad luck calling, let's say, 8 to 10,000 of instant internet leads. You thought it was just you?
I didn't think it was just me as much as it was me, plus we didn't know how many times Mrs. Jones clicked on buttons on the internet. That was a lot of it too. I mean, I'm not stupid. I didn't think that was the bulk of it. And I started suspecting things were squirrely with the leads.
That's what you were told when you complained about these duplicated leads, that they filled out multiple lead forms?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Tyra Hamilton mentioned that on her phone conversation, and she had a little bit of a chuckle that people would actually believe that. Wow.
If I'd have just got head down and ground it for 90 days, and then I started having crap luck, I would have been, no, this is not me.
There are advertisements stating that the average person is making $111,000. They'll mentor you to make $250,000. Did you actually believe that?
No, I didn't believe that for a minute.
Did you see that cease and desist? FTC?
I heard of it in your, I think I saw it in the email that you put out.
They said they can't lie on online recruiting with exaggerated income claims.
I knew that was going to happen. I told my wife a year ago, I said, it's going to put a stop to this BS, because these kids are not treating insurance with respect. This stuff borders on shaking down elderly people, man, the way they bang through these leads. I told her that. I said, what's going to bring them down is there's going to be an insurance commissioner that's going to step in and slap them hard. And then it's probably going to wake up the FTC.
I actually physically filed in a couple of states. Some of the states said they need a specific example of a person who got churned, which means they bought an expensive policy initially, and then they got replaced to a better one from the same lead or marketing company.
And reset their contestability period.
Right. You lose all that built-up cash value if it's a whole life policy.
Help me understand how to sell this product. Don't tell me I got to shut up and grind. I was grinding when you guys were learning how to wipe your noses. Tell me how this works. And one kid flat out said, and I can't remember who it was, Dave, one kid flat out said, look, we don't care what works. We care what's duplicatable. And I thought, I'm out. You kids, you got children running the freaking enterprise here. I'm out. You're not going to scale this.
Duplicatable, does that mean duplicatable in lead sales? Is that what he was talking about?
Duplicatable, yes. I mean, indirectly, yes.
It seems like the one thing that was duplicatable was lead sales to people like yourself.
At the end of the day, ain't it so, right? To borrow a phrase, the training was all about watch the videos.
It seems like you were the sale. If you spend $12,000, you were the sale.
Yeah, as it turns out, this thing's a hot mess.
If
I had tens of thousands, then I'd be madder than a hornet, and I'd put a dog in this fight. I would.
If I could get someone such as the gentleman from Texas, Guy McCourt, who says he's going to file a lawsuit, if I could get you the template where all you have to do is go to the courthouse, change the words in your filing fee, would you do it?
I'm no stranger to the legal process, at least at a medium level. If that's all it would cost me, and who am I up against?
I will answer the question. What happens once you file, they respond. Then it goes through the whole rigmarole of responses and all that other stuff. From what I see coming up my alley, multiple lawyers that are charging $1,200 an hour to FFL are representing them. I would imagine that they don't want to spend that $1,200 multiple hours flying out to your city in your state. What I would like to do with the help of some attorney somewhere or Guy McCord is to develop that template where I could take it, file. The most likely scenario is they'll just give you your money back. The negative consequences are it ends up being treble damages. Your time and effort, whatever that is, let's say $7,000 a month, average salary in your city, $5,000, pick a number, you times it by 3, and that's what the damages are.
Maybe when you get that, shoot me an email.
When I get the template, because if I was a major corporation that would have to spend multiple tens of thousands of dollars to defend your case, when you have Tyra online, when you have Greg Birch, and I'm sure there'll be others, and Tyra and Greg seemed like they were telling the truth.
I remember seeing some of the early recordings of Greg when he came over to Advantage One Brokers. Here's a question. Is anybody thinking about doing a class action on these guys? All these little onesie-twosies things.
I was told by a gentleman named Mr. Michael Schless that there's a class action. I'm not 100% sure if he's telling me the truth. Greg Birch going back and forth through lawyers, that was about a class action as well. Mr. Michael Schless doesn't pick up the phone. These gentlemen may have just been playing me.
But there's definitely something, or they say in Texas, there's a skunk in the woodpile. There's no question. There's something bad wrong here, as they say in the South.
Wolf of Wall Street on steroids.
Yeah, and this is just me guessing.
George, you happen to be a good talker. You come across as a sharp individual. You only lost a couple of $1,000 plus your time and effort. The gentleman from Minnesota, the old elderly gentleman, $9,000 in no sales. Robert Taylor.
It was a big deal. And I think it's going to take a bigger horse to win that race. You know what I mean? That's why I'm looking at class action, because the onesie-twosie stuff, Sean Mike is I mean, I could be overstepping, I could be overstating, but he seems like he's a vindictive individual. For FFL to give the direction to American Amicable to cancel all of our freaking contracts. Called American Amicable when I got that letter, Dave, and I'm like, don't redirect me back to my IMO. My contract is with you. Why are you letting me go? So you want to answer the question? Well, we were told to redirect these questions back to the IMO. I said, I'm not asking you any other question but one. Is my contract with you or not? She wouldn't answer. I said, I've had it with this whole thing since FFL through this BS with Advantage when they hit hypergrowth. The number 2 reason businesses fail, they weren't ready for it. They're flopping all over the road with this.
You got out of the industry.
Well,
so that particular part of the industry.
Exactly. I'm selling, like I said, Physicians Mutual, Med Sup. I mean, the commissions are 20%, whatever, 20-odd%. It's nothing. But I was number 1 agent in the office last month.
How much money are you making now?
Not nearly enough. I'm also doing real estate, trying to revive that. So
just to let you know,
I'm doing both.
Medicare supplement, you get commissions for multiple years. I believe it's 6 years. It really doesn't matter what you're making initially. It continues.
And that's exactly why I picked this segment of the industry, Dave, because I've got the licenses right on the border of Illinois, so I'm servicing Illinois. I'm from Ohio. I'm going to keep that license. So last month, I made just under $3,000. You and I know that's nothing.
How many sales was that based on?
7.
You're making $10,000 a month. If you extrapolate that to what the money that will actually come later, a decent chunk of change just based on those 7 sales.
Exactly, and that's what I'm building. Because when we were trying to recover, actually when I joined the insurance industry in the first place, my son had a mental illness 10 years ago, and we wiped us out completely. 115% commission or whatever it was. It looked pretty interesting.
What I'd like you to do, George, if you could, the YouTube channel we have, if you could make comments, like, share, subscribe, trying to come up with some good content.
Yeah, let me look over to see if I can support the cause like that. It's got to settle out.
It's not going to settle. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar company. The lifeblood of this particular multi-billion-dollar company has to be bringing in new agents, generating some sort of revenue from these new agents. I hate to tell you how they generate the new revenue.
Oh no, I was part of a network marketing company, and they were shut down by the Federal Trade Commission.
I sent another email to the FTC today. Well, it's not online. The interview yesterday based on Craigslist. The Craigslist said averaging between 50 and 250, 100,000 a year. It's a blatant violation.
I know, right? I know.
And it happened to be an office owned by Sean Mikey. He was the VP. Grabbed it, did a screenshot, sent it over to the FTC.
That's crazy.
What I'm concerned about is all these agents telling me the same story.
Mm-hmm.
And these two in-the-know whistleblowers, high-up whistleblowers, telling me that that's the way it is. It's not by accident.
Mm-hmm.
I need to do something to get partners because they're coming after me individually because apparently they believe the NAIP website has a lot of potential. They believe I'm pretty good on these 6-day per week video conference calls. When I was in conversations with the attorney, he was asking me over and over, are you going to stop? If we make some sort of deal with you, can we trust you to actually keep your end of it? And I had a feeling she could tell by my intonation of my voice that I'm too honest. Do I come across as too honest?
You come across as straightforward, that's for sure.
I guess at the end of the day, she says, we can't make a deal with this guy. It's just too straightforward.
Yeah.
I would like your help in something. I need to make interviews to put on YouTube because these interviews are exciting. People are telling their honest truth. Sometimes the honest truth comes across better when they believe it's an anonymous phone call like Tyra.
I hear you, and I literally appreciate and respect what you're doing. But like I said, from conversation one, even in my email, I'm not in a position right now. I can't, go poke this bear right now. I can't. If it escalates, I'm going to have to be on the B list for calling. Right now, I can't.
I understand. Are you able to complain to the Department of Insurance State of Wisconsin? They do prefer local complaints as opposed to out-of-state people or the FTC. If you know of illegalities according to your Department of Insurance regulations, specifically what you told me about the churning, if they're selling this leads to multiple people, that leads to churning. Inevitably, it leads to elder abuse. So you should inform your Department of Insurance.
Honestly, it's a little bit of a reach that it's going to lead to churning because, but in my view, the churning actually takes place like when Sean is selling, what did he call those leads? Like when you leave and he's all mad and
bounty leads.
Thank you. Yeah. Now that right there is a blatant violation. That's blatant.
Hey, George,
to me, that is a direct line.
George, I've got news. A gentleman called me, very anonymous phone call. Eventually, we're going to make it public. Inevitably, what's happened, if you know that you've got a particular marketing company is teaching their agents to sell a hugely overpriced policy, according to Michael Schless, his marketing company, 3% of his sales are Americo, specifically for DUI and bankruptcy. If you heard that interview, so if you've got FFL who's he's putting them with every let's say 40%, 50%, 30%, but it's a large number. You know that these are hugely replaceable policies. You could wake up in the morning, search for these customers who are relatively healthy people who bought this policy for America. They pay the same amount of money and get twice or 3 times more coverage.
Right.
And if one of these people is over 65 years old, I did notice in one state it's over 70 years old. That's elder abuse.